Yo, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome y'all back to the No Level Cap podcast where we talk all the anime, all the gaming, and all the geek culture. What's popping? I'd like to introduce everybody to the crew. We got the collector of collectors, Will Coleman. What's up, Will?
How y'all doing today? I am tired. I have been working all week, so I ain't got much to really say.
Hey, man, I feel you. I feel you. It's a hardworking black man. I understand. We've got the living cartoon and the man with the golden voice, Rakeem, back. What's going on, Rakeem?
Oh man, here's another No Level Cap podcast. Rakeem in the house. Happy to be here, ready for this episode, and I'm just looking forward to it. Let's get spicy.
Yeah, we are getting kind of spicy. We about to shake everything up. Lastly, we got the Black Daredevil, the best actor in Austin, Texas, Terrence Flowers. Terrence, you went to DreamCon. What's up? How was it?
DreamCon was good. It was definitely crowded, and there was there's some logistics things that they could clean up, but overall, it was a great convention. Great to see, fellow black geeks, and yeah, the culture was definitely present there. So it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Definitely recommend it.
Hey, that's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. The reason why I changed up the opening is because and I apologize. I kind of threw this at the guys, so y'all about to see in real time how amazing these niggas are because they about to go off. Because I completely changed the subject. Like we had a whole podcast plan, and I tossed it. Like I threw it out right 5 minutes before the show. I was like, man, fuck that shit. We ain't talking about none of it. We're gonna talk about something completely different. Because I looked at all the San Diego Comic-Con news, and I was like, yo, this is a lot. Like I didn't expect to see this much. I guess I should have since we, fresh back off of the pandemic and whatnot. And they were probably excited to just finally show anything. And so I was like, man, I'm looking at all this stuff, and I we don't talk about it often, but I'm like a huge comic book fan, or at least I was at one point. I kind of am now. It's debatable, but I love superheroes. I really enjoy the MCU. I try to enjoy the DC universe the DC Comics movies when they don't suck. So I just looked at all the stuff that was coming, and I was like, man, this is a lot of stuff to talk about. And so I wanted to open it up and talk a bit about, all of the stuff that popped up at the DC and the Marvel Hall H panels, the cartoons, the movies, that type of shit. And I want to get off the ground. I want to start with The Rock's latest, greatest, epic film that he's been hyping the fuck out of, Black Adam. The hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. All that shit he been talking. I heard he showed up to the Hall H panel, the DC Comics Hall H panel with in full costume. Like he did like a whole wrestling entrance. He showed up with the costume on. He popped in. He was like, yo, what's popping? He did a whole little show before he showed a new trailer, before we got a chance to see a new trailer. And one thing I'll say, I want, before I get everybody's opinion, I want to ask y'all something, because y'all did get a chance to hear about this, or maybe you heard about this, maybe you didn't. There was a rumor that Henry Cavill was going to be going to make an appearance.
Oh, yeah.
That he was going to be they were going to confirm that Henry Cavill was still going to be playing Superman, and everybody was at the edge of their seats. They was like, is Henry Cavill going to show up? Is Henry Cavill going to show up? And he didn't. He didn't show up. They did the whole hour show. They talked about Black Adam. They talked about what's the other film? Shazam 2. Yeah, they talked about Shazam 2, and they talked about Black Adam, and the whole time everybody's like, it's Henry Cavill, and he never was there. And I thought that was kind of funny. But I do want to get y'all's opinion. Y'all saw the trailer. Terrence, what did you think of the Black Adam trailer?
I mean, I think it looks fine. Black Adam is one of those characters where I guess it's a movie where I don't think I'm going to really have an opinion until I see it for myself, because these DC movies, they're very standalone at this point. So I don't know if it's going to intersect with Shazam at all. Because we mostly know Black Adam is like a Shazam thing. They're intertwined. Mm-hmm. So the fact that Black Adam is all on his own, it's kind of like, I don't know quite what direction they're going to take it in. Are they just...
Well, let me give you a little background, and then, maybe you can tell me what you think from there. So Black Adam, of course, is a well-known, he is the other, one of a handful of Shazam or Captain Marvel villains. I prefer Captain Marvel. He's one of a handful of Captain Marvel villains, right? And the story they're pulling from, or at least the story I believe they're pulling from, is this JSA story called Black Rain. And Black Rain was this storyline where basically the Justice Society, which is like the precursor to the Justice League, tried to pull Black Adam in. Like they saw, they kind of noticed like, okay, well, he's not all bad. He seems like he does care about doing the right thing sometimes. He just goes about it in like, a really rough way. And they wanted to see if they could bring him into the fold and turn him into a hero and kind of smooth out the rough edges. And I don't know what happens in the movie, but in the comics, of course, that doesn't work. Like he's there for a little while. He's a member of the team for a little while. And then he kind of, some shit pops off. I don't want to spoil too much because if they're pulling from Black Rain too heavily, I'd be spoiling the movie. But like some shit pops off and they wind up like, for one thing, Atom Smasher, which is a character in the film, winds up, I believe, killing someone at like, and Black Adam's like, well, I mean, I'm gonna look after him. And they're like, bro, like, he's like a murderer or whatever. And he's like, I don't care. I run this country. I run the country of Kondak. And that's the thing. Black Adam was like a slave at one point, and he was given the power by Shazam. He got the power of the Egyptian pantheon, the Egyptian pantheon, where Shazam, Captain Marvel got the power of the Greek pantheon. Black Adam gets the powers of the Egyptian pantheon, and he's like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna bring justice to my country, and he brings a dark justice to his country and becomes the ruler of Kondak. And then stuff happens. They take his powers, they seal him away. He breaks out and goes back to his old ways, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna take over Kondak again, and he does. And like in the comics, he takes over Kondak. He becomes the ruler, and he gives basically Atom Smasher, after he does all this stuff, he's like, hey man, you want to stay here forever? You welcome to stay here. And Atom Smasher's like, yeah, cool. And he tries to like, even though he needs the what's the word I'm looking for? He needs the shelter so he doesn't go to jail or whatever, but also he wants to help, bring Black Adam around to being like a proper hero. And so like it makes sense that they're including all four heroes. And like as far as like Black Adam and Captain Marvel or Shazam 2, like the way you figure it is like they introduce you to Black Adam, and so you know who he is in Black Adam 1, and then Shazam 2 kind of develops the Shazam family. It develops all of his, his kid, like all of his brothers and sisters and stuff like that. And then you could either in Black Adam 2 or Shazam 2 do like a crossover film where the two meet up and maybe they fight, maybe they, learn to get along. It just depends. But all right, I'm gonna let you go back to it, bro.
I think your thoughts are much better than mine. I think that's kind of it. I don't really have much more to say in that regard. I mean, I think that the trailer looks good. I mean, The Rock seems like a solid choice as Black Adam. Yeah, I'm just very curious to see how the film goes. Just these DC standalone films. Some of them been hits, some of them been misses. So we'll just see.
Well, hopefully this won't be like. Hopefully this will kind of sort of bring an end to the standalones, because there's clearly a plan to like have those two intersect at some point. So hopefully that kind of brings it into this. We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully that'll be the case. But yeah, that's pretty much my take on it.
Will, what did you think? Like, what did you think of the trailer?
After sitting down with it and watching it, I won't lie, I'm very interested in it because he's someone I've kind of seen in and out as a kid growing up and as a teenager. I've seen him here and there, dropped in between. And I'm like, The Rock is an excellent choice. And I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone in here has a history of seeing this man on television. So by all means, we don't watch him this long. Why would we miss him on the silver screen at this point anyways? Because he's been on the silver screen quite a few times too. So I'm going to go see the movie. I'm ready to see how it goes. And I'm also kind of with Terrence in the same way. I want to see how it plays out. I want to see if it ends the whole standalone thing. And I hope that it ends up being more of a hit than it does a miss, because we've seen how DC movies do. Like they'll drop at least one wet fart and then the next one will be pretty okay movie. It's like they on and off with it each time. But I think a lot of it comes down to director choice too. So whoever they got, who they have going for this Black Adam movie, who they have directing?
The director?
Yeah.
That is a great question. Let's bring that up real quick.
Yeah, let's see. The
director is Jaume Collet-Serra, who now I gotta look up what they're best known for, because I mean, like, I don't want to. Okay, so they've done like a lot of like they did the horror film House of Wax, The Shallows. They've done some Liam Neeson films, Nonstop, Run All Night, The Commuter.
Be dark.
So
Okay,
I mean, like, yeah,
yeah.
it leads in the direction of like I'm making a. They did Jungle Cruise.
Oh,
Holy shit! Okay, well, there you go. There, I mean, like that kind of leans into I've got experience working with The Rock, so
Yeah.
Ye- okay, so yeah, I mean, if they can take this movie and do exactly what it is, and probably hit on those storylines like you mentioned from the comic books, if they're going to be doing that and they can kind of nail it, I don't want them to 150% nail it. At least hit at least about a good 80. If they can get it good enough, then we'll see how it turns out to be good. I hope it's good. I want it to be good. So,
Yeah.
because I'm out here rooting for The Rock, you already know.
I feel you. I feel you. Rakeem,
What you say, Sage?
Rakeem, before you people hit me with the people's elbow while you give me the people's eyebrow, could you let me know what you think of the film?
I think it was interesting. So looking at the trailer, I thought back to I think a year or two, maybe 2, 3 years ago, where Rock explained what happened with the direction of Black Adam, because if you paid attention to any of the any of the media towards this is pretty much just as much of a Rock production as it is a DC production because he's so
Mm.
heavily ingrained
He's
in
been
this.
trying to do this film for like years and
Exactly.
years. So
Way back, like I think like 2013, 2014, there was an image of him in the costume, and he promoted that freaking heavily. Like to the point where like I think that was like the early emphasis of him like, oh, I really do want to play this character. And he really went behind it. So I'm happy that like he's playing a character that he clearly wants to play. He's fully engaged with the character. He's fully engaged with the movie script. From what I saw from the trailer, I thought it was interesting. What sold me on seeing this film completely was the integration of the other characters like Doctor Fate, Adam Smasher, Hawkman, DC characters who I've actually liked for a long time, but they never really get center stage. Especially Hawkman, you never see Hawkman. You gonna see Hawk Girl, you never see Hawkman. So
facts.
it's really cool to see those characters get some shine. Of course, Black Adam as a character is a cool character. He's always more of in a villain role, anti-hero role, so it's gonna be kind of a tweener kind of character like that. And I remember seeing Rock talk about how originally the movie we're getting now wasn't even supposed to happen. He was supposed to be in the first movie. Their first plan was him fighting the first movie and have the other villain. And Rock was like, "This is too much for one movie. Let's stretch this out and split it up in 3 films," which probably was the right call. Now I'm not gonna lie, I didn't expect them to do Black Adam and a Shazam movie in the same year. That's actually
I
kind
don't
of
think that was originally intended. I think it just kind
yeah.
of turned out that way. So it
Yeah.
works out well, I think.
Yeah, it works. It's like it's kind of fortuitous for DC because they kind of need something to kind of connect things together. DC's in this weird phase now where they haven't caught up with Marvel, but they're in that transition phase like Marvel is. Like they feel like they're kind of transitioning from that Snyderverse era into a new era, and they're trying to figure out their identity, what they want to be going forward. They just didn't have an end game beforehand. They didn't like literally they didn't get an in game level film or anything like that to finish that era. It's basically like them just like cutting bait and going from scratch and starting something new with what they have left of the pieces of that last era. Which it could be
Mm.
good, it could be bad, but I mean, there's been so many things in between that. Losing Henry Cavill, um, losing Ben Affleck, but getting a new Batman, but he's his own. Batman's now in his own separate continuity.
Yep.
Well, that Batman specific,
Hmm.
he's supposed to still be involved with the Flash film, I think, to some degree.
So Matt Reeves' Batman film, the Batman, which I think came out March,
Yeah.
I believe
Yeah,
March. Yeah.
Hmm.
its own continuity,
That
right?
is a separate continuity from anything else that DC's doing. But the Flash movie with if it ever comes out, has Michael Keaton in it as like
Right.
Batman, as Ezra Miller. They go from one universe to another, and they wind up meeting both Michael Keaton and Supergirl, Sasha Cale, I think her name is.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, like that's how that was supposed to play out.
So weird how how it worked out for them. I mean, it's not that surprising because they kind of fumbled the bag in a lot of different areas with the DC
You ain't lying.
universe. So them kind of finding some kind of continuity, and with The Rock kind of being a anchor for the franchise, because he does have gravity in the movie in the movie media, like his gravity as an actor, as a force, really. to push things is ridiculous. I've never seen a promotion machine like The Rock in a long time. Like it's
I
unbelievable.
mean,
So
Bro
I think
legit
the movie's
just
gonna
showed
be.
up to he just legit showed up to Jeff Keighley's show, was like, hey, watch Black Adam, the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change. Also, drink my energy drink. Also, watch me in Fast and Furious. Also, I'm in Fortnite, and also like I'll holler at y'all later. Like, enjoy your
Also,
gaming.
also 2 weeks ago he owns the XFL now, and 2 weeks ago he was promoting that as well. So this force is ridiculous. So I think it'll have the machine behind it. I'm okay with the direction for him. I'm happy to see some of these other characters get some shine. So I'm looking forward to. I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be pretty good.
Okay, so I actually didn't say anything about what I thought of Black Adam, and like I'm like straddling the fence on whether or not I'm excited. Because here's the thing, like they have the Justice Society in it, but it's kind of like in that same way that people like comic book fans kind of trolled Civil War when it first came out, where they'd show
Mm.
like here's Civil War like in the comics, and you saw like dozens and dozens of heroes on each side. Here's Civil War in the movies, and it was like 5 heroes on each side. You're like, bro, what? Like the scale is so much smaller, and like that's kind of the problem I have with this because they have the Justice Society, but it's like 4 people. And the Justice Society, like for people who don't know, that team is gigantic because it's meant to capture the generational feeling of the DC universe. And so there are heroes that aren't necessarily part of the Justice League. Like you do have the original, the OG, actual original Flash, the actual original Green Lantern, because it's not Hal Jordan, it's not Barry Allen, it's Jake Garrick and Alan Scott. Yeah, Alan Scott. It's Alan Scott. Yeah, yeah. So like you have these 2 teams, and like so the original Green Lantern is missing. The original Flash is missing. Wildcat is missing. And the last time we saw Wildcat, he was getting hold on Arrow. So I mean, like, I would like for him to come back and redeem himself.
Remember that?
You have all these characters that are missing from the Justice Society, and I'm like, I kind of don't like it, but they could sell me on it if the film itself is good. Because I mean, like, they're already showing Black Adam kind of hoeing Dr. Fate, and I don't know why they always do that. They always have like the dude with the super strength somehow being able to beat the dude that can like manipulate reality. I'm like, bro, strength is not gonna get you out of this. I can just teleport you to another planet. Like you can't punch your way out of this. I'm sorry, but I mean, like, we'll see how that goes in the film. Hopefully, the Justice Society don't have to fight him too much. Mostly because like if you want to make a film out of it, and like you saw like at Comic-Con, they had the actor for Hawkman, and he was talking about how he would want there to be a Hawkman movie. He wants there to be a Justice Society movie, and you could sell me on Black Adam partially by making sure this is a good film, but then also like I probably might like it more in retrospect if Justice Society gets a film and it's a more expanded team, because the team in the movie appears to just be Dr. Fate, Hawkman, Cyclone, and who am I missing?
Adam Smasher.
Adam Smasher. He's supposed to be a key character to the plot, so it's weird that I forgot him. But like, those are just the 4 characters in the film, and I'm like, man, you're gonna need a bigger team than this. But I mean, like, I also understand the idea of wanting to keep your team small because you don't want the cast to have too many. You don't want there to be too many people in the cast in the opening movie, because then like you run into that Spider-Man 3 problem where there's too much going on at a given moment, and it just the fans you like it's too long of a film, it's too complicated of a film, it's too convoluted, and you lose the fans. You don't want that. So keep it simple. To me, Shazam, the first Shazam is the best DC movie. Like, that doesn't have Batman in the title by far. Wonder Woman's cool. I like Wonder Woman, but like Shazam was a much better film. I love that cast. Speaking of, they also showed Shazam 2. And like I said, I love Shazam, like the first Shazam. Like I like Captain Marvel a lot. I like the fact that he's basically Superman, but like with a kid's heart, and like he's just this guy that's trying to do his best with these powers that he was given out of nowhere by some fucking creep in a subway. And like I love like the movie, like the way they played that out. They really did incorporate all these like brand new characters at the time. Like those characters were relatively new, who had all just recently got powers, and they were like they kept that from you too. Like they didn't show that they were like everybody was gonna get powers. They just kind of were like, yeah, Captain Marvel gets powers, and Billy Batson gets powers, and we're gonna show Billy Batson. And then out of nowhere, they were like, oh, also the rest of the family gets powers too. Like, we're not gonna wait until Shazam 2. Like, they're gonna get them now, and they're gonna help him fight. and it really was the Shazam family, and I love that. I love that they managed to capture that family feeling. And from the looks of things, Shazam 2 looks like it's gonna have that same thing. Uh, Second films in a franchise in trilogies are always hard. They always wind up like you get Back to the Future 2, you get Highlander 2, you get these films that like you get Iron Man 2, like the shit that nobody, Thor 2, the shit nobody wants to talk about. Like a lot of times they wind up being mediocre to terrible. There's some exceptions, of course, like Winter Soldier, Captain America, Winter Soldier, and I felt like the Cap films got better. Well, I won't say got better because I think Winter Soldier's better than Civil War, but like you got this feeling that like a lot of times they can go astray. Hopefully, Shazam 2 kind of builds on it. Rakeem, what did you think of Shazam 2? Like the trailer?
Oh, I'm kind of like what you said a few minutes. How you felt about the Shazam? Like I was happy that they're still focusing on the family. Because you know what? Because in the first film, the family thing happened at the very tail end of the movie. So like damn near to the credits. So I was like, I hope that's not like a one-off thing, and they like don't go back into that. I'm glad they kept that going. I'm glad that Shazam still has like that childlike, kind of childlike behavior. They're not leaning into the darkness. They're leaning into his
He's
comedic
like
side.
talking to a
his
pediatrician in the trailer
He's
and
talking
whatnot.
to a pediatrician. I'm happy. I'm happy to see it again. I'm looking forward to it. I'm more interested though. Is like, okay, this is cool, but now that we have Black Adam too, where are these movies going to have that intersection point? Like towards the end, like is there going to be some kind of, they probably have something towards the end of both movies where it's an intersection point. I think because of the Black Adam thing, I'm almost like, this is cool, but I'm ready for y'all to hit that next level after that. See what that hits after. Like there's gonna be a collision, and this is the build up before the collision. So I'm kind of like, I'm ready to watch this movie. I think it's gonna be good. I'm interested to see how the family's gonna tie into it versus Black Adam as well. Are they all gonna fight them together? One thing that I was interested in the trailers, he mentioned that like they felt like a family, but then they started doing their own thing, and they're gonna be like kind of like delving into each individual character as how they use their powers, and how they coincide and like eventually separate it and get back together. That'd be kind of an interesting way to take it. Kind of give everybody their chance. Plus, if I'm not mistaken, Making Good was one of them. So
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm always down for more Making Good in any movie at all times. And she's single now, so just saying.
She smokes cigarettes.
She's smoking with cigarettes?
She smoking with cigarettes.
Oh my gosh. So one thing that you brought up that's interesting to me is that you talked about like the family splitting apart. And that's one thing that they didn't talk about in the last movie that they could bring up in the next one. In the comics, Shazam or Captain Marvel gets weaker with every person he gives his powers to. So like
that's correct.
Gives his powers to, but if they all activate their powers at the same time, he gets weaker like every time. So like if it's just him and Mary, he has half the strength that he normally has. If it's him, Mary, and Freddy, he has a third of the strength that he normally has. And so, like, when you give your powers away to like 7 different people, you split your powers by 7. And what's supposed to make up for it on like some Power Rangers type shit is that they have the teamwork and they're a family and they work together. And so, working together, that's better. That's more powerful than the separate like parts or him just being by himself. And so, hopefully, they play off of that. Will, what'd you think of it?
When I think of it, I'm just like y'all. I'm with the family thing. I want to see how that go. And as I was watching that trailer, because I actually rewinded it a couple times just to kind of like get a grip on it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I almost want to kind of call it Shazam Teenage Crisis because it felt like he was going through it that whole little first bit of that trailer. He's just like, I got these powers, but I don't think I really need them or deserve them. And then all of a sudden he just hits something and just skids down the street. I'm just like, bro, are you okay? Did you need a hug? Did you need to speak to a therapist? He needed something, and I don't know what was going on, but he needed it. But I want to see that because I want to see how they play that out. I want to see how he goes through the whole thing. I want to see the family get it together. I want to see all of that. I'm ready to watch that movie. I'll rewatch Shazam if I have to.
Oh man, I'm definitely gonna rewatch Shazam. Like I don't rewatch films a lot because I'm not a big film guy. Which I mean, like I guess that's gonna change. We do have some stuff coming later that we'll talk about. Not us, but like the fans. Like y'all, we got stuff coming later that y'all will see. But like I'm usually not a movie guy. I don't really watch a ton of films, and I definitely don't rewatch films like that. Even ones I love, I tend to just be like, because I hate to like watch something until you just get sick of it. I don't want to be that guy. So like I often will watch a film once, maybe twice if I love it. I've watched Shazam once in theaters and once with my guys, like while we were here in our apartment. And like that's pretty much it. But I'm definitely down to watch it a third time just to see how it was, how like just to get like a sense of the characters again. Terrence, what'd you think of Shazam 2? The trailer at least.
I think it looks good. I do agree that Shazam 1 excuse me, I do think that Shazam 1 was one of the better DC films. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this one turns out. Yeah, pretty much like you all have said, you pretty much touched on everything. Like the fact that the family at the end of Shazam 1, they showed up. I definitely wasn't expecting that. So that was a great surprise. And it seems like they're leaning more into that for this sequel. So yeah, I really like Shazam 1. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with Shazam 2. So it'll definitely be on my watch list later this year.
That's what's up. All right, so I would love to talk more about DC, but they have a couple of problems. One, which I thought was weird, they didn't show Batgirl, like the Batgirl film, which I believe is going to come to theaters later this year.
This year?
It's supposed to it's coming out this year. I know that
Wow.
much. I believe, like, I can check, but I'm pretty sure.
Holy crap. There's a lot of movies.
What's it? I was about to say, is that 3 DC films coming this year? Well, shoot, if you include the Batman, that's 4.
Well, y'all excuse my guy.
Yeah.
Batgirl came out. Batgirl's due to come out later this year. Coming to HBO Max.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
That might be why. But I mean, like they were putting money into it, like it was supposed to be like a proper, cinematic film. So we'll see. They didn't show that. They didn't show anything of the Superman cartoon they got coming out, or the Batman cartoon they got coming out. Batman Cape Crusader. Maybe they're saving that for another DC fandom. If they are, I guess I'll watch the trailers after they drop because DC fandom was one of the worst fucking experiences I had last year, as far as like watching a convention or anything like that. Like that was the worst. Like I know our audience mostly fucks with games and shit like that. Imagine the worst, most boring fucking gaming conference you've ever been, like you've ever sat through. This was like twice as bad as that. It was fucking miserable. Like it was 4 hours of just bullshit, and like people coming out and saying we'd love to show you something, but we're not ready yet. And it's like, man, what the fuck am I here for? So like I DC kind of shortchanged themselves, and so that forces us. And I like it's sad because I prefer DC as the comics to Marvel, but I mean like there's no getting around it. Marvel just has it on lock when it comes to television and when it comes to films, and so like they showed up to Hall H and they fucking brought it, bro. They killed it, and so like let's get into it, man. Like they talked about Phase 4, Phase 5, and Phase 6, and so like I guess their thing was they were like, hey man, look, we know y'all been saying what are we aiming for? What's Phase 4 aiming for? Not shit. Phase 4 is not aiming for anything. Phase 4 is just like Phase 1 was. It's just bricklaying. Like all of Phase 4 is bricklaying. They're about to end Phase 4 very soon. Apparently, like the Phase 4 will end with She-Hulk and Wakanda Forever. Like they showed the trailers for those, and they were like, "Yep, this is it." And so like what's gonna happen is coming out of Wakanda Forever this November. That will be the end of Phase 4, and I think that's very interesting. Because it really isn't like they put the hint of some villains out there. Like there's some stuff, and I'm gonna get into it later. And since I am the comic guy, I'll do whatever explaining I need, answer any questions that need to be answered. So like but like Phase 4 really was just like a lot of hints and stuff like that. And you got to go back to Phase 1 and think about like Phase 1 really, like you knew Thanos was out there, but like. They didn't show much of Thanos. Like they showed Thanos at the end of Avengers 1, and that was it. Like he was not featured at all in Phase 1. It was just like, hey, we doing a Marvel movie. Come see it. And that's what Phase 4 has been. And so like the first thing I want to talk about, just because it is so somber and I don't want to like end on that, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. That was heavy. Yeah. That was fucking heavy. Yeah. Terrence, how did you feel about Black Panther Wakanda Forever, man? Like the trailer, how did you feel about it?
I mean, the trailer, obviously they have Chadwick's passing, they have to deal with. And there was not contra, maybe I shouldn't call it controversy, but there was the debate last year as to like whether they should recast or whether they should leave it alone or whatnot. And I think it'll be interesting to see what direction they go in without recasting the Black Panther. So
what side did you come on that debate? Like, were you like, should they just let it rest, or should they like have recast it to you?
I kind of was either or, to be honest. I don't know. I feel like if I lean one way or the other, somebody's gonna come after me. It's like, oh, you think they should recast them, you mother?
I mean, if you think what you think, fuck what everybody else say. Like that's your opinion. You're entitled to it. So like,
we know how opinions work.
I mean, accidents like assholes too. But I don't give a damn. Like I'm gonna say what I got to say. But I that's why I be asking y'all, like, how do y'all feel? So like, did you think that they should have recast?
I don't know. I'm interested to see what they do without recasting. But in terms of like what I thought originally, I thought I kind of was on the fence about it. I didn't really have like a strong opinion one way or the other because I could completely understand why you wouldn't recast, but the other hand, I understand why you would, just because that's a pivot. That's a huge character that you're missing from the MCU now. It's like, especially the fact that there was so much setup for him, and everybody loves T'Challa, Black Panther, but at the same time, it's like, those are some huge shoes to fill. Like, I can't imagine any actor stepping into the shoes of Chadwick. And I know some will say like, oh, well, we don't expect them to be Chadwick. Yeah, you say that, but as soon as they step into the shoes, you're going to compare them to Chadwick. It is what it is. So, yeah, I can see the argument for recasting, but I can also see the argument against it. So they're probably better off just leaving it as is. I'm very curious to see if they go the route of making Shuri Black Panther. I know that in the trailer, like toward the end, they showed a shot of like somebody in like a Black Panther suit. I don't know if that's her or somebody completely different. I know they have the villain for this one. What's his name? Namor?
Namor.
Right,
Yeah, Namor. I know a little bit about his backstory. I know pretty much. Wasn't there a point where he pretty much like blew up Wakanda or something, and like him and Black Panther have just always had beef with each other? Isn't that right?
Namor attacked Wakanda a while back. Like, I don't want to like be wrong, but what I know for sure is I believe, like, and this is gonna take us to a brief tangent. Namor at one point got like the powers of like the Dark Phoenix or the Phoenix. There was a story, Avengers versus X-Men, I think in 2012, and like Namor got the powers of like the Phoenix, and it corrupted him. He was like one of he was one of 5 mutants that got the powers of the Phoenix, and it corrupted him. And he's already kind of like an anti-hero to begin with. So like, it didn't take much to push him over the edge. And so he wound up attacking Wakanda, and that's kind of started a blood feud between them ever since. So
yeah. So curious to see how that goes, I guess, with no T'Challa around. Like, I guess that's another aspect too. I'm very curious to see how they address the death of Black Panther. Like, are they going to give a reason why he passed away? Was it something sudden? Did it have to do with the snap? I mean, he came back from the snap, obviously, but I'm going to have to see the movie. Like, I do really want to see the movie. I mean, if anything, just to see where the story goes with Black Panther, how they honor Chadwick's memory. It's definitely going to be a tearjerker kind of going into it, just because we're always going to think about Chadwick. And heck, even now when I watch MCU movies with Chadwick in it, it definitely, you see it in a different light. Yeah, it hits different. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I remember in Infinity War, like when the snap went off and he says like, "This is no place to die," and then he suddenly disappears. It's like, man, it's totally different now. But yeah, I'm not going to ramble on any longer. I do want to see Black Panther 2. I think it looks good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it when it comes out this year.
Will, how'd you like it? How'd you like the trailer, bro?
I really did. I really love that trailer because I see everything it did. I seen a lot of those events, plus the mural featuring Chadwick's or T'Challa's face. I seen the mural there, and I was just like, that's a good way to kind of place him here, even though we know he's no longer here with us. And I want to see exactly, like Terrence said, how they kind of write that. How are they gonna tell us how Black Panther passed away? And I'm definitely wondering who else is in the suit, because I want to know at least at this point, I'll say it like this. I wonder, is that another person in the suit, or is that some sort of like event that they're gonna show us that may have happened before Black Panther's death?
Ooh,
Hmm.
good question. Because I
I
definitely
want to
like
know
Terrence. I
that.
was thinking it was like probably Shuri or something, but it could
Yeah.
easily be like a flashback to like what happened and what caused him to die in the Marvel universe. So
Hmm.
Yeah,
good
and
point.
Yeah.
let's not
So
forget with these Marvel trailers now, they have it where they show like fake scenes that don't actually end up being in the movie. So you
oh
never know if
yeah.
it's you never know what might be real and what isn't. So yeah.
Yeah,
But
true. That could also be a thing, but it's something I'm thinking about too. I was like, is that gonna be flashback? Is that gonna be an event that happened beforehand? Will Namor have a hand in that? Will we
Mm.
see how he kind of just comes about and does what he does? Or will Shuri take up the mantle? Anything like that. I want to know. Like, I'm here to see the whole Shuri thing, even though we did have a bit of a debacle with her, with Miss Letitia Wright for like quite some time before we got on to where we at now. So I want to see how they plan that out with her still being in the movie and whether who's gonna be done in that suit. I want to know. So I love the trailer. I want to see the movie. Let's see if we get there.
Rakeem, what did you think about it?
man, it was very emotional for me. So, in context, you guys know, like the day Chadwick died, it was a very big, sad moment for a lot of people. A lot of people, for viewers out there in the black community, Black Panther was a big freaking deal. It was like personification of what we've always wanted ourselves to be portrayed in cinema and as a hero. Perfectly personified. And Chadwick played that character to a T. And I remember the day he passed, there was a mural here in North Nashville. Same day he passed, they painted a mural of his face on a wall. Um, Beautiful. And seeing the movie trailer, that mural reminded me of the same mural that was made here in Nashville. So that got me kind of emotional. But in context, clearly they're paying a lot of respect to him, which thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to kind of see in this movie. Um, I'm interested to see like how they're gonna maneuver without him being there. Cause it seems like a part of this movie is gonna be without him being there. How do we the fallout from that? How do we pick up the pieces? How do we get our country back without its king for a while? And that's gonna be interesting, perspective. His sister being involved, his mother, the Warriors. I can't remember their names. I'm sorry, I always get their names
Dora
wrong.
Milaje.
Dora
There you go.
Milaje. Their representation in the movie. They're gonna probably have a more prominent role, although they already always had a prominent role, but they have a more prominent role now. And then at the end with the teaser of like who might be in the suit, I'm interested in that. I think it might still be Shuri, but they have so many different actors that if they wanted to just go a different route, I really wouldn't be too angry either way. You could do Lupita. You could do what's the dude's name? Um, Dog Nabbit. Winston Duke. We can Winston
Mm.
Duke's
Oh,
character. If he
M'Baku.
takes, yeah, because he's still kind of in there. Where yeah, Mbatu, I'd be fine with that. Either one's fine with me. I'm just happy when I saw the trailer. Like, it gave me what I wanted. Just due respect to Chadwick Boseman, and then writing, the story of the fallout of Lost. Because now they have to like losing someone of that magnitude in the story gives the opportunity for the writers to like kind of write the story of like how we deal with loss, how we
Oh yeah.
deal with losing someone who's a big figure, or how we deal with the issue. Because the MCU deals with loss, but there's always like there's comedy, there's elements of getting things back, but this is a loss we can't get back.
Oh yeah.
He's really passed. So how they deal with that in the writing is gonna be make or break this movie for me. I feel like
Oh
they
yeah.
they really get the nuances right with this. They really do this story gradually. I know there's like some villains in the movie. I'm not familiar with who the villains are in this movie. I don't know who those people are. But how they deal with that's gonna make a big movie for me. So ultimately, I was pleased. I was emotional. I'll be very honest. I was very emotional seeing this. And I hope it does very well. I want this movie to do well, and I hope people come out to it just like the first time.
Oh yeah.
I don't think you have to worry about that. I think people are going to show up, like, definitely.
This shit, it very possibly, probably, will beat Black Panther 1 in terms
Yeah,
of sales.
I could
So,
definitely see that. Yeah,
and
Oh
if it's
yeah.
and if it's good, oh my god.
yeah,
Through the stratosphere.
yeah.
So I'm gonna take y'all on a bit of a journey. I'm gonna try to keep it quick, but I don't know if I can. Uh, this is gonna be a little. I'm going somewhere with it.
All right.
So in wrestling, you have a lot of like moments, right? Like you have these
Mhm.
like because everybody knows wrestling's predetermined. It's not real, right? And
Right.
so when you can have something that feels real, that you like, okay, I believe this, it's one of the greatest feelings in wrestling. You know, every time the Undertaker wrestled at WrestleMania, you felt something because that streak was real. Whether he won or not, you didn't know, but the streak was real. Every time he went to WrestleMania, he won. And so it was an event to see, even as he got old, even as he slowed down, it was an event. The reason why it was an event was because you didn't know if they were going to finally tell the story of him finally losing. And so it mattered. Even as he got old, even as he couldn't wrestle and go the way he used to, it still mattered because it was something that they had built to make feel real. And like regardless of how whether he won or like when he finally lost, you can't undo that. That story has been told. And so here's the thing, this is where I was going. When it comes to loss in the Marvel universe, at any moment they can press a button. At any moment they can cut the right check. And like I don't care how bad, if you walked into Avengers Endgame and you cried when Tony Stark died, guess what? They can still cut a check and they can find a way to bring Tony back, if just for one movie. I don't care how hurt you was. If you was, I feel like Cap should have stayed. Well, guess what? They can have Cap back whenever they want. I was always on the side of if Chadwick has passed, do not recast him. And the reason why I was for that is because, like what Keem said, you can't undo this. Once you tell the story, like if you recast it, then it's just, oh well, you know, it's sad he died, we moving on. But if you tell the story of this is how the Black Panther fell, you have now found something real. Like that you can't undo it because you can't get that character back. He's gone now. And like that hit the Black community in a way that not too many other things have in the last decade that has anything to do with like pop culture. That hit the Black community as a whole because he was our hero. We didn't get many heroes and he was our hero and he passed and it hurt. And so with this film, you have an opportunity to tell a story, not just to let us grieve a little bit, but also the journey of like how the people in that universe get over it, how the people that were closest to the character get over it, and how we have to move on without that character and without Chadwick. And so that to me was too vital a story to not tell. If you fuck it up, you know, at least you tried. At least you went in there and you had something, because like we always talk about how the MCU, I say people always talk about how the MCU is lazy and creatively bankrupt and all of that. This is not creatively bankrupt. This is this is the epitome of sticking to your guns, because you can't recast after you tell the story of him passing, because that now people are going to be like, bro, what was the point of you telling this story? You can't go back. So now you've done something that feels real, that is going to matter when we sit down in the theater. So like I'm for this movie. When I saw it, I did get a little misty eyed. You know what I'm saying? Angela Bassett had that line. You know, I lost my whole family. Have I not given it? Cold. That shit was cold. And there are so many characters in this film that are strong enough, that I would like enough, that could carry the Black Panther mantle, or they could decide that, you know, we don't necessarily need a Black Panther. We're still Wakanda, and we are going to be strong in his name, and we are going to be strong regardless. They could do a lot. And I love that they had, you know, they did have that moment of Ironheart. I'm a little I'm a little iffy on Ironheart being so closely tied to Wakanda. Her name is Ironheart. She's inspired by Iron Man, and so it's a little weird. Like otherwise, like just make her shit. You might as well make her Black Panther. You might as well just be like, yeah, this was the sister of you. You just didn't know about. This is his T'Challa's sister, and she gonna be the new Black Panther. Like it doesn't make sense. I wouldn't be upset at all. Like if you're gonna tie her that close to Wakanda, I'm like, well, shit. It sounds like she's more inspired by Black Panther than by Iron Man.
His cousin.
You say what?
I'm his cousin.
I mean, shit. You can make her his cousin. Like you could do any of that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against it. As far as Namor goes, I do hate that Namor is in it and T'Challa's not there. I don't like because there's such an enmity between those two. Like the moment that Namor went behind T'Challa's back and just attacked Wakanda, like that started a blood feud. Like there's a point later on, and we're gonna get into Secret Wars in a little bit. There's a point in Secret Wars, like a story that they're basically building towards, where the team, there's a team, and Namor and T'Challa have decided to put the differences aside because everything's gotten so big and so crazy and so wild that they need to put the differences aside. And then the second things go really left, T'Challa takes the first opportunity he can to fuck Namor because he was like, no, I didn't forget, and I'm still mad. And if things are going left, you're not gonna be one of the last ones standing. You finna get up out of here. And so, like, it's such a great moment to see him screw over Namor, and he deserved it not just for what he had done to T'Challa, but what he had done to a lot of people. And so, like, hopefully we can still get a version of that moment because it was so good, it was so powerful. Hopefully we can still get a version of that moment. So, other than that, like, I really love that trailer. I thought it was fantastic. Easily the movie I'm most excited to see since like Spider-Man 3, as far as Marvel goes.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I think of like all the Marvel movies that have happened since Endgame, No Way Home?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No Way Home was like the one that I was like really excited. I'm like, okay, what are they gonna do? And then like since then, or really all the Phase 4 films, I've been kind of like, which is not to say they were bad, just to say that like going into them, my hype level wasn't that high, but I'm hyped as fuck for that. And then the last Phase 4 thing that they're doing is She-Hulk. We could get something a little less serious now.
Yeah.
Laughed my ass off at She-Hulk's trailer. Rakeem, what did you think of it?
So, in context, I've always been a fan of She-Hulk because I saw the Hulk cartoon when I was a small kid. I remember seeing her character, and I was like, "Oh, this is really cool." He has a cousin who's a Hulk, but she has full control of her powers. This is really interesting. This is cool. I've had a feeling like She-Hulk, if you're gonna do, because a lot of these, some of these other stories in the MCU right now, some of them have a lot of weight to them and they have like a low level of seriousness. This is not that. This feels like the time you can lean into the silliness a little bit more. Because the absurdity of a lawyer who has, a gamma radiated giant who just walked into a courtroom, it's a silly situation. So you have to lean into the silliness a little bit. I totally understand that. I thought it was fine. It was kind of cool seeing Banner interact with her and teach her how to be a Hulk. I thought that was interesting. I know there's going to be some fans who are a little hurt, like, man, I like Smart Hulk. Man, I don't like Smart Hulk. I want old, angry Hulk back. I miss angry Hulk. I've heard that a lot.
Are people really saying that?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
People want traditional smash, destroy Hulk back. Not, I go to Starbucks and I read books Hulk. They don't want that Hulk.
Interesting.
That's the thing. But I'm fine with it for now. You could always tell that story later that he goes back. Something happens, he reverts back. Who cares? But She-Hulk, I'm fine with. I'm interested in seeing how she's going to play into things. They mentioned who her villain was, I think, in the trailer.
Titania.
Okay. I'm not familiar with her villain. Are you familiar with the villain, Sage?
She's a odd villain because there's a lot going on, and I mean I'll get into it a little later. But yeah, she's just got super strength. She's more of a, and this is very cool. because they've spent so much time showing all these villains that have these gigantic plans and aims and shit like that, and she's just trying to get by. She's like a working class villain. She goes around, she like rob banks because she's like, oh man, I mean, I got this strength, can't get no job, I got to do something. And so she goes around like, doing like regular fucking crime, like blue collar super crime is basically what she is.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah, She-Hulk, I'm fine with. I just want to see how it's gonna play out. I'm gonna watch it, see how it is. I'm actually looking forward to it, to be honest. I took a little bit of break from some of the Marvel shows. I had watched the first set last year, all of them, all the way through. This year, I guess I was a little burned out from all the shows consecutively. Some of the Star Wars shows too in between that, so I took a little break from them. But I'm gonna eventually get back to finishing some of them, like Moon Knight and Miss Marvel, and then I'm definitely gonna get into this show when it comes out.
That's what's up. Okay,
Yeah.
so I do want to just give a quick thing about Hulk as far as like people wanting angry Hulk back. A few decades ago, they had this writer that like did like this really great Hulk run, Peter David, and he wrote Hulk for like 12 fucking years, which is an eternity in comic book time. And so like along the way, he turned Hulk smart. He like made Hulk into like intelligent Hulk. He had like fused Bruce Banner and his alternate personality, Joe Fixit, and then like Savage Hulk. And it was just like smart Hulk just going around doing smart Hulk shit. And then one of the things that caused him to lose the job is because Marvel was like, hey, man, you got to go back to angry Hulk. Hulk got to go back being angry and tearing up shit, Hulk smash, all that shit. And so he was like, I ain't doing it. And as soon as they got rid of him, they immediately went back to angry Hulk, and fans seem to dig it. So
That's what they.
I guess this is where we at. And I mean, like, I agree with Keen. Like, you can do that at any time. I think they have some problems, like some rights issues. I think he's one of the only characters left with like rights issues, and so they can't do a solo film. I'm not sure of the particulars of it.
Because like Universal has the. It's weird because I think Universal has the distribution rights, but they don't have like the actual rights to the character.
Right.
So it's like you can't.
That makes sense.
Marvel can use them, but they can't make a film with them because technically Universal would have to distribute it and not Disney. So
wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't know
that
the particulars, so thank you very much, Terrence.
Yeah,
I think that's right because I remember looking this up before, and I think that's correct if I'm not mistaken.
That makes so much sense.
It do,
In
man.
context, because there's no way they wouldn't have made a solo Hulk film in the last 10 years. If that's the case.
That's kind of why Ragnarok kind of fused Planet Hulk and Thor's story together, sort of because of that. Yeah.
I still think there's room to do a proper Planet Hulk film because there's so much to it, and I think that would be the way that you might not get him back to like savage dumb Hulk, but you could definitely get him back to like angry wrathful vengeance Hulk. Or I would love this. I don't know that they'd have the balls to do it, but I'd love to do Immortal Hulk, which is like this kind of horror version of Hulk where he like literally couldn't die, but you could see him like he couldn't die, but he could get like body parts cut off, and like at one point they literally vivisected him, like cut him into pieces, and like this is really dark. There was like a scientist group that like cut him up into pieces and put him into jars, and like the Hulk still came back to life, broke the jars, and all the pieces of the Hulk reassembled around that scientist and just like murdered him from the inside. It's like one of the grossest shit, but like the book was great and like the whole run was incredible. You could definitely make a film out of it if you wanted to. So
I'm
Jesus.
gonna give a shout out to my best friend Rob. I'm gonna tell him about the comic book and make sure he reads it. He loves Hulk.
That's what I'm saying.
It is a great book. It's like 50 issues long, and it's like very consistent, consistently drawn, consistently written. So, Terrence, what did you think of She-Hulk?
I think this trailer looked better than the first one. I think the first one, people had some issues with it just because, one, there were some iffy parts about the CG in terms of it kind of hitting like an uncanny valley with She-Hulk. And the reason why it was different from like her and the Hulk, like the Hulk, we know he's not real because like no like 10 foot, however tall.
Big, yeah,
nobody's going to be that big walking around like 10, 12 feet tall. Like Hulk, we know he's not real, but She-Hulk, she hits this uncanny valley of she's not real, but at the same time she looks pretty realistic and like outside, and they didn't really make her like super buff. She's buff, but she's still kind of she's toned down from what she's looked like in other media, like in like the comics or even just like in TV, other like animated shows or whatever.
Definitely should have made a buffer.
Yeah, definitely should have. But I think this trailer looks good. I mean, definitely the comedy looks great. It's good to. It's always fun to see Mark Ruffalo playing Hulk, so that will be fun. They're hinting more at I guess the other sides of Marvel in terms of now we have like metahumans and everything coming into play. I saw Daredevil was at the end of the trailer, so I guess he'll show up. So yeah, I think it'll be a fun show to watch. I know these Disney Plus shows. I think the ones this year, last year, I want to say last year's shows were probably better than this year's. This year's have been kind of like somewhat of a mixed bag for some people. I don't know. I haven't watched all of them, so I can't really give like a solid opinion. But I know some people were kind of iffy about Miss Marvel. Like they some people really liked it, and others were kind of like, I can take it or leave it. Moon Knight, I think, was fine for the most part. What was the other show that came out this year?
I've been blanking on it since you said it. I was like, fuck. There was Moon Knight, there was Miss Marvel, and I don't remember if there was anything else.
I feel like there was one more, but I can't think of it. Yeah,
there was Hawkeye, but that was last year.
Yeah, that came out in November.
Yeah.
I want to say there was one more show. I'll think of it when I don't need it. But anyway, I think that I think that it looks good. I think this trailer makes it look better than the first trailer did, and we'll see how it is when it comes out.
So I will say this as far as like She-Hulk goes. I do like that they're kind of opening the door, and it's like making superheroes and super like the idea of super like people, metahumans being a more common thing. In other words, like you can have characters that just kind of pop up out of nowhere with powers, and it could become a little more like the Marvel universe where that shit just happens, and there's no need for like a really complex explanation for certain characters. They have certain characters in the film, in the TV show, like the Wrecking Crew, which is like part of the Wrecking Crew and Titania are kind of tied together. The Wrecking Crew have been like Thor villains in the past, but they also can be She-Hulk villains or Hulk villains. So I like that. I like the shout out to, and Rakeem brought this up. Basically, She-Hulk is Hulk, but like in full control. She can do everything Hulk can do, but better. And like the trailer kind of pointed that out. Like her strength is better. Like Angry Hulk was always stronger than Smart Hulk. Like because the angrier Hulk gets, the stronger Hulk gets. But like, so like Smart Hulk has like a baseline level of strength, and he really can't get too much further past that. She-Hulk doesn't really have that limitation. She's just already strong. You saw her chuck the boulder. Her boulder went further than Hulk's. You saw like them both doing like the little yoga poses, and she was just better at it. Her focus is better, and like she can turn it off and on and whenever she wants. And I think Mark Ruffalo's character, I think Bruce is just stuck as Hulk. Like either that or he's like on some Goku and Gohan during the Cell Games type shit, where he just Super Saiyan full power. He just always in that shit. And he just refuses to cut it off.
She-Hulk, like real quick, She-Hulk doesn't have like the. Were you saying something, Rakeem?
Oh, I was saying he was stuck. He got stuck in towards like the end game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's when he got stuck.
Yeah.
What's up, Terrence?
Well, what I was gonna say is like She-Hulk doesn't have the same kind of like mental conflict that Bruce and the Hulk have, right? Like for her, it's like that's just her. Like she doesn't have like anybody that she's dealing with in a sense in her head, right?
Okay. Oh, so if you're asking, does she have like basically dissociative identity disorder? No.
Yeah, because like with the Hulk, it's like a Jekyll and Hyde situation where it's like the two are always battling each other. But with She-Hulk, that's not the case, right?
No, I mean like with Hulk, there's like more than two. There's like four. There's like
Savage I guess
Hulk.
if we count like Joe Fixit and all of them, right?
There's Joe Fixit, and then like there's Devil Hulk, which is like the immortal Hulk that I was telling y'all about, where he's like he's smart, but he's like not Bruce Banner smart. He's just like street smart, and he's like got this deep hatred of humanity for how shitty it is and how shitty it's been to him. So like he has that. No, She-Hulk doesn't have any of that. She's just like when she can get angry and go into like a savage She-Hulk mode. Nobody ever likes it. I don't know why they keep doing it, but like she can do that. But like no, her thing is that she's just always in control. But overall, like I love that trailer. Like they even had like some nods to like her old 80s and 90s comics where she used to like kind of lean on the fourth wall a little bit. She didn't necessarily break it all the time, but she would like lean on it, kind of point out like certain things that were happening in the comic at the time. And like if you looked at the trailer, you saw her do it where she's like, he says he's happy, but he's not really happy about this. And like Hulk's kind of looking at her, and she's like, "What? Like, I don't know what you looking at." Like that was very cute, and I can tell this, much like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is probably going to be the one I'm most excited to see. Like last year, they had WandaVision, and I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. They had Loki. I didn't even watch Loki. No shout out, no disrespect to Loki. I just never got around to it. Hawkeye was all right, but not like something I was super into. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was like the most like a Marvel comic, and so I was the most hyped for that one. And this again, She-Hulk is most like the comic for She-Hulk, even though it's not necessarily a mile a minute action and that type of shit. It's not all of that, but it is like so much like She-Hulk and how She-Hulk used to be, and it's kind of getting back to again now. That I'm like, yeah, let's go. So I'm like super excited for it when she drops in August. We'll see whether or not Marvel's Avengers actually puts the character out in time. I don't think they will. I think they're gonna botch it. But
I had, my bad, Sage. I had one question.
what's up? What's up?
I know in the trailer, it sounded like she was able to transform in and out of her form. When I remember as a kid, it was like she was pretty much stuck in that form. She had full control of it, but she was stuck in the gamma radiated form. Is that something that's fluctuated in the comics, or how's that been?
Actually, it's not that she's ever been stuck. No, she has been stuck a few times, but it's usually like a trauma related thing. But like typically, she's not stuck. What it is that she doesn't like being small and weak and not hot, and like she was always like this kind of overlooked type character, this overlooked person, this mousy girl, kind of a wallflower, and then she becomes She-Hulk, and she becomes like this fucking giant model that everybody finds attractive, and like what, like there's no man that can threaten her attractiveness. Like, oh, I like you, and I would like, ain't nothing they can do. Like she's Hulk, and like you just got to be like, oh wow, you're hot, and you just kind of got to move on. And so like she was attracted to having that level of beauty, but also that level of power. And so like the two combined, and she was like, why would I ever go back to being Jen Walters when I can be She-Hulk? So that's why you never really saw her in her regular form.
Okay.
Will, what'd you think of it?
I liked it, but first thing to kind of touch base on some of the things y'all said, with her always being in control, I kind of tied it to the fact that she's in law, and if I'm mistaken, she is a lawyer. So I feel like being in the courtroom, you gotta be in control. So once you start opening your mouth and talking, you have to be in control. So her being that, she has to control that, plus control the action in the courtroom, and the whole thing with her and wanting to be beautiful. I kind of noticed that in the trailer where she basically pinned some man down on a couch, and I saw that it was like a real quick snippet. You'll blink and you'll miss it, and I saw that, I was just like, that's the power.
I believe that's David Otunga. Like, cause they had that in the previous trailer, like literally, like that was David Otunga, like his character, and I believe they just kind of showed a little bit more of that scene. So that's what that is.
Okay, then.
Above his weight.
All right, so wherever, there you go. But yeah, I enjoyed the trailer. I think it's going to be a really funny something to watch. I'm sure it's going to have its moments here and there, and I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of those interactions between her and Bruce and whatnot. I'm ready to see all of that. And look, I might get a little shit for this, but I like Smart Hulk. Smart Hulk is all right it's all right by me. It ain't an all the time thing I want, but he's all right by me.
I mean, I prefer Smart Hulk, but I also don't like Hulk as a character. I adore She-Hulk. I adore She-Hulk, but I've never really liked Hulk. Like, I don't really like those angry rage monsters. Y'all remember I had that rant about Broly. I'm pretty consistent about this, like angry rage characters. I kind of like the fact that Hulk calmed down once somebody whooped his ass. Like, you can be angry as you want to, but once somebody beat that ass, you got to calm down, and he did. So I always fucked with that. So
yeah, I mean that's how I got to be in real life too. You can't be hard all day long.
You can't be angry if you're getting your ass beat.
You definitely can't be.
Okay, so they also showed literally everything coming between now and in 2025, which is fucking nuts. Like, they didn't show everything, like they didn't show trailers or everything, but they did let you know they've got everything planned up to Phase 6, and the final two Phase 6 films will be like Avengers: The Kang Dynasty and Avengers: Secret War. And this is interesting. They're calling it the Multiverse Saga. And so this is kind of interesting to me in that this makes Doctor Strange, if you've seen it, super fucking important. They talked about it. They hinted at it, and that's when I kind of was like, okay, so that's probably where they're going. This thing, like, they talked about Wanda causing something called, well, Wanda and Strange, like a alternate version of Strange, causing something called an incursion. And like incursions happen when two universes kind of touch, and then like either one or the other gets wiped out, or they like you have to either wipe one of them out or both of them get wiped out. And so like Strange had to like wipe out an entire universe because of an incursion. And then I think in the at the end of Strange, like Clea comes along and is like, yo, you know, you caused an incursion with your actions, and now we got to go fix it and that shit. And so that's what they're building to with Secret Wars. Secret Wars, the whole story of that was that something started causing incursions, and one by one, the universes in the multiverse were being wiped out. And so what had to happen was like the Avengers. Well, there were two versions of the Avengers. There was like the Illuminati version with like Namor and Black Panther and Captain America and Iron Man and I want to say Reed and a couple other characters all got together.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think Reed and there's like somebody else that was involved.
I know Reed was there, and I'm not sure if it was either Beast or Professor X, because there was a mutant representative there too.
Funny enough, I watched a video on this recently, so I know what you're talking about.
Hey, I'm glad I'm not the only one in here that like immediately knows. So like what winds up happening is that you have like the Avengers, like a big version of the Avengers to deal with like big problems, and you've got the Illuminati, like a bunch of geniuses trying to deal with like the incursions and trying to stop them, but like they can't, because it's happening on such a scale, it's like beyond the scale that they can deal with. And so there's all this shit happening, and like what it becomes like this moral question, like, okay, well, what are we gonna do? Like at some point we're gonna have to wipe out a universe, because it's either gonna be us or them, and what do we do? And that was the story. That's the story of that particular Avengers run, and then it ends in like the Secret War, which is like this one planet, like all the universes get wiped out except one fucking planet, and that planet has like all of the remnants of different universes all on one planet. And so like in one part of the time, like one part of the planet is like Marvel Zombies, another part of the planet is like there's like Age of Apocalypse, like when Apocalypse took over the planet and shit like that. And like all over the planet is just like different Marvel universes that were referenced like throughout history and shit like that. And so like I thought that was a really cool story, and it's actually really well timed because they're introducing Doctor Doom, or at least I would assume so, because Fantastic Four is coming. Like one of the films that they showed was like Fantastic Four, because like they have Phase 5 already plotted out, which includes Ant-Man 3, which is going to introduce Kang the Conqueror.
All right.
Secret Invasion, which is like the story of Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. dealing with like this Skrull invasion, and the Skrulls are like shapeshifters. They can show up and just be like,
Skrull,
you know,
okay.
And they can like become different supervillains or superheroes, and they can take the place of anybody. And so that's going to be a TV show. They got Guardians 3. I don't care about Guardians 3, so I mean, like, if y'all want to pipe in on Guardians 3, go have at it. I hated Guardians 1 and 2, so they've got Echo, the character from Hawkeye, the deaf character. She's gonna get her own TV show, which I think is actually really fucking cool. Loki is gonna be one of the few shows to get a season 2, because they've so far not been doing a lot of season 2s. But I mean, like, Tom Hiddleston needs something to do. He got too big of a fan base to let him go. You've got Captain Marvel and the Marvels. That's gonna be the middle of 2023, or the middle of 2023. You've got Blade, November 3rd, 2023, like Blade. You've got Ironheart, who's going to come out of Black Panther 2. And you've got, weirdly enough, Agatha, Coven of Chaos. So, like, WandaVision, like, Agatha Harkness is going to get her own television show.
I did not expect that.
I definitely didn't expect that. And then the last one, well, actually, there's a couple more. Daredevil is getting a new show.
Yay.
He's getting his own show, and here's the really interesting part. It's going to be 18 episodes long for the first season.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Like, if y'all know, like, Disney's thus far, they haven't gone past like 8.
Yeah.
I think they might have done have they done like a 10 episode one?
I think technically WandaVision had the most, I think.
Yeah.
And that was like, what, 9 or 10, I think.
And then every one of them after that has...
But yeah, you might be right, yeah.
every one of them after that was like 6 to 8 episodes. They got in and they got out. And
Right.
like, I know people are concerned. Like, do y'all think that's too long? Because to me, I'm like, not really. Like, ultimately, like, there were some shows y'all had that people were like, this still took too long, and it was like 6 episodes. And there were other ones that was like 8 episodes, and people was like, all right, man, y'all done, like, it was still like a lot of meat left on the bone. Like, you could have told the rest of the story. Like, you trying to talk about a season 2 like Moon Knight. People was like, man, you left a lot of meat on the bone. Like, you could have expanded this. So to me, I got to the point where I'm like, however long it is, if you don't plot it right, it's not gonna be long enough, or it's gonna be too long. So like, if you don't, like, it's all gonna come down to the writing.
Right.
But like, how do y'all feel? Like, do y'all feel like Daredevil is? First off, are you excited about Daredevil effectively season 4? And do you think it's too long? Terrence, Black Daredevil, what do you think?
I've have concerns just because I wonder what kind of direction they're going to take it in. I know that Kevin Feige has gone on record saying that he didn't really care for the way that Netflix did Daredevil.
Really?
If I'm not mistaken, I don't think I'm just talking out my ass on that one. I'm pretty sure he said that he didn't care for the way that.
It's not that I don't believe
I had to
you.
look it up later.
It's more that Kevin Feige, like, that's a wild thing to say, because people tended to, like, of all the Netflix characters, I would say Daredevil was the most beloved.
Yeah, I would think so too. I think the thing is he didn't like not when I say the direction, I don't mean like he didn't like he thought that it was trash or anything. That I think that maybe making it as dark as it was, because let's be honest, like the MCU is not, the MCU isn't
It's not
dark in
known
any
for
way.
that.
It's not known for being dark, and so that's kind of my concern, is that if what I'm saying is correct, if I'm talking on my ass, and hey, somebody can call me out on whatever, but if they do change Daredevil to be a bit more in line with the rest of the MCU,
It'll be whack.
I'm concerned about that, because what made Daredevil special on Netflix was it took itself seriously. The action scenes were top notch, well choreographed. If you don't have any of that coming into this Disney show, then I don't want to watch it. Yeah,
Correct.
So that's my main concern, is that if you don't keep the tone somewhat similar, or you don't the thing is about Daredevil is like every single season has some kind of big action sequence that everybody can recall, and of course the hallway scene is like the granddaddy of them all. If you don't have something like that in this new show, people are going to call it out on it. I mean, so that's my thing. It's like, I'm glad to see Daredevil back. Trust me, when he showed up in Spider-Man No Way Home, I was definitely one of those that was like, yes, it's like finally Charlie Cox is back. Like I love it. But if they don't show it the respect that it deserves and try and make it more along the lines of the rest of the MCU, toss in more jokes or make it more lighthearted, I really don't want that. So that's my concern. And when we finally get a trailer, I'll hold off my my thoughts on it until we get a trailer and it shows me the direction that we're going in. But those are just some of my concerns going into it, is that I'm just very cautious about the way Disney might handle it, just because the MCU has its formula, and even going into this phase is still somewhat sticking to that formula. It's not trying to deviate too much away from it. So if they do the same thing with Daredevil, then that's some cause for concern in my book.
I not only agree, like, I 100% agree, like, holy shit. I hope that he didn't say that. Like, I'm not saying
let
wrong.
me look that up real quick. Well, you all continue, but let me just look it up and I'll let you know.
If that man said something like, in fact, whether he said something like that or not, Terrence is right. Like, you can't lighten up on Daredevil. First off, I've always described Daredevil as like, he's Spider-Man without the powers and without the jokes. Like, he ain't funny. Cause like, even like, if you go read Daredevil's comics, they're all like really dark. They're all really depressing. There's one run in Daredevil, Mark Waid's run, that was really bright, like lighthearted, and really, it's still really good. But like, it was really good because it was the exception to the rule. All the rest of them have all found different ways to fuck over Matt Murdock. And if that's not what you're writing, you have fucked up. Like, maybe they do an adaptation of Mark Waid's run, which kind of fits in more with the lighthearted MCU. Maybe. But otherwise, like, bro, if you don't get the fuck out of here with that shit, like, go ahead and give me a dark dark Daredevil. Ain't no jokes. He don't need to be funny. Like I actually don't mind the quips of the MCU because superheroes used to quip all the time in the comic books. They always had some kind of joke or some kind of silly shit that they were saying. But like I don't like the idea of you taking a character that's not funny and then all of a sudden like he got jokes. Ha ha ha. Like, nah, get that shit out of here. I don't want Punisher cracking jokes before he like bust
Never.
somebody's head open. I
Uh-uh.
don't want
Oh
none of that.
no. Mm-mm.
And this is on
No.
the same level. Like Daredevil, not a funny dude either. Like he's like his life is too fucked up to be funny. All right. Peter
Yeah.
Parker is about the limit of how fucked up you can get with a character, and they still crack jokes. And Matt Murdock got Peter Parker beat 6 ways from Sunday when it comes to how fucked up his life is. So no, I don't want no humor. Get this shit out of here.
Exactly.
Will, what did you think about like? What do you like? Are you excited for Daredevil? And do you think 18 episodes is too long?
I actually fuck with Daredevil because I actually had a few of the comics a long time ago when I was a kid. Our Family Dollar here used to have like just random little comic books in like a pack for like $5, maybe $3 or $5, and you have like 3, 4 issues sitting in there. All of them are usually different, but they're usually all Marvel books. And I used to have like different Avengers comics, different Daredevil comics, and whatnot. I used to have those. Sadly, I don't have them no more, but time goes on. And 18 episodes, I will admit, as much as I'm okay with a show that long, the question I'll have to ask in regards to that is how long is a usual episode for a show like that?
Mm.
Because if it's the 30 to 40 minute, I can kind of forgive it. But if the episodes are an hour long a piece and you're cutting me into 18 episodes, then we have a problem. Because you're really stretching this out because I don't know what story you're about to tell me. So if you start me in here at episode 1, an hour long, and then you keep going an hour every episode, I have to question. When are we ending? What are you trying to tell me? And what's going on here?
I will say that the MCU TV shows, they kind of vary. Like the episodes usually are like 30 minutes to like 40. It really depends. Yeah, they kind of go back and forth. I guess it depends on how much story they have to tell in a certain episode.
Okay.
I mean, they have no specific like nothing's making them be a specific length, right? It's not like it's not like being on cable where you got to fit around the commercials. Like, no, I can just run it however long I want to run it, and we just keep it moving. So it could be 28 minutes on one episode, 45 minutes on another. The opening episode could be like an hour and 5 minutes long, and it still would be like, yeah, whatever. So I mean, like, hopefully they get their runtime down because you're right, that's hella important.
Yeah, that's important. But yeah, it's gonna all be in how they set us up on the first episode going into episode 2. That's how I think. That's what I think this is gonna hinge on. If they're gonna do 18, the first episode has to get us going, and the second one has to pick it up and keep it moving. If we do not get that, this show is going to drag. And I like Daredevil, and I don't want his stuff to drag because he's a no nonsense ass kicker. I mean, what the fuck? Why would I sit too long for this? I don't want to be bored with the man.
I mean, you like they're gonna be in trouble regardless. I feel like with Daredevil because he's like the one Netflix character people like, and the anti MCU people have been waiting on a chance to like jump on the MCU and be like, look, we told y'all this shit was trash the whole time, and now look how they did Daredevil. And like, if y'all fuck Daredevil up, that's you gonna have people on y'all ass. So I hope y'all ready.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, man. I'm ready to see if there's gonna be like either huge backlash or either huge whiplash from like, oh shit, I didn't think they would actually nail it. So I want to see how that turns out.
They're gonna lie to you. Like, even if the show is fire, the anti-MCU people gonna be like, look, if you look at the color grading right here, it's actually not that great of a show. And they're gonna start pointing out all this like shit that only like either the most anal fans or like hot top tier directors would ever notice. And so you're gonna be like, bro, what the fuck are y'all talking about? The show is good. Shut up. I mean, Rakeem, how do you feel? Like, do you feel like it's too long, and are you excited for like a Daredevil season 4 effectively?
Oh yeah. First off, I'm definitely excited for Daredevil season 4. It was definitely my favorite Netflix shows. It kind of surprised me because I never was a Daredevil guy growing up. Like, I watched the movie that came out in the 2000s. We all know how that went.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
never had a connection to Matt Murdock until that Netflix series, and I felt like they did such a good job getting the tone right, letting me feel like how this character interacts with other characters and like tying them into the other universes. It was my favorite out of all of them. Although I like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. I don't talk about Iron Fist. I didn't like it. Proof. But yeah, it was my favorite of them, so I'm excited for it to come back. As far as 18 episodes, man, it feels weird to say that. It's like, man, it feels like too many. It's like, we grew up in an era where we used to have 45, 50-minute episodes in a 20 episode season, 25 episodes.
23, 24, 25
Yeah.
episodes.
Yep.
That was normal. So I
Time.
guess like now expectations have kind of changed now because they put more into the episodes as far as budget. So I don't know, like with this amount of stretched out, will it have a lower budget kind of show more than a higher budget kind of show? That could be telling. If they just really pay attention to the tone of their original Netflix show, get the spirit of Matt Murdock, the spirit, I'm assuming Kingpin's gonna be back for this season. Get the spirit of that Kingpin character, and just go back and get those characters right. I think it'll be great. However, I don't want to happen because it's been a few years now. I don't want to happen what happened with like how excited we were when Young Justice came back, and it comes back, and then like it came back, and everybody kind of just forgot about it again. Nobody talks about it anymore.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
Just because we don't talk about it does not mean people aren't talking about it.
Okay.
Young Justice
Yeah.
season 4, I believe, was like one of the most watched television shows, streaming shows of last year.
Okay.
So like it was huge. We just didn't, because like it was so long between the time, like you would have to go back and either rewatch both seasons or like pick up and kind of remember. And like I had to like I did that. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch the new season of Young Justice. I'm gonna get into it. And I was like, first let me go back and watch season 1 and 2. And then I remember like season 1 and 2 was like 50 episodes. And so I got through all 50 episodes, and I was like, all right, now let's get to season 3. And then something else came up. We started the podcast, and I had all this other shit to do, and I just never got back to season 3. And and they're on season 4 now. So like it's successful and it's performing very well. It's just when you have that big ass gap, like unless there's an attempt to bring in like a blatant attempt to be like, okay, even if you haven't seen it in a long time, come on back. We got this. Like, here's this recap. We're gonna remind you everything that you missed, and now you can come and watch it and get a clean start. Unless you have that, it's
Bingo.
a lot of people that's so that's really gonna be the problem.
Point. That was a part of my point. It's like it's been such a long gap. People kind of forgotten about the show as much. Are they going to be as excited as they were when they watched it all those years ago? So yeah, that's a great point, Sage. And I guess you're right. I mean, just because I don't watch Young Justice, me other people don't watch it. I'm pretty sure it's still being watched heavily. But it did feel like some of the hype died down a little bit for me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so personally, I think it'll be okay. The 18 episode thing, I am wondering as far as like, if this show's going to be 18 episodes, is Disney going to start changing how they do their other shows? Are they going to kind of come back on a budget a little bit and go for longer episodes? Because these shows are very expensive. These shows are clearly movie quality shows. Like, these shows are very expensive. Star Wars, man, ridiculous. I don't know how much they're spending. So it's starting to get up. And one last point I had, I know you mentioned it earlier with the full roundup of the MCU shows. One thing I wanted to bring up, I didn't get a chance to talk, was that Loki getting a second season is very important because those who haven't watched Loki, the Kang thing, that really got that rolling in Loki. Like, if you watch towards the end of Loki season 1, that sets in motion everything probably towards Kang the Conqueror character in Secret Wars. So it's a very important show to watch. So please watch Loki if you're gonna get into Secret Wars.
Gotcha.
Which actually brings me, because like we're gonna wrap up, but I do want to get through like the last of Phase 5 and Phase 6. Cap 4 comes out May 3rd, 2024. It's called Captain America: New World Order. It'll have, of course, like Sam Wilson as Cap. Of course, we've already done his effectively origin story, so we'll be done through with that. July 26th is Thunderbolts. Okay, so nobody's going to know what Thunderbolts is, and a lot of people are going to describe Thunderbolts as like Suicide Squad. It is not. It's kind of like that, but it's not really Suicide Squad. Okay, so Thunderbolts was this comic book that came out in like 1998, right? And the idea was they had done this big Marvel event. where all the Marvel superheroes had gone. Like all the big superheroes were gone. All that was left was like X-Men and Spider-Man. Like Avengers was gone, Hulk was gone, Fantastic Four were gone, and so like the Marvel universe was empty effectively because this is in the 90s, so there were fewer heroes, fewer top tier heroes, right?
Mhm.
And so along come the Thunderbolts, and they're this like new superhero team led by this old superhero, like this old 1940 superhero called Captain V, and you have these other characters in the background, Songbird, Mach 5, and all these other characters. And the opening issue, and this is like one of the greatest twists in comic book history. The opening issue is like showing them doing all this hero shit, and at the end of the issue, you find out none of them are heroes. They're all old supervillains, and they've decided to go undercover and pretend to be heroes and use like the fact that there are no Avengers, the Avengers have disappeared, there's no Fantastic Four, to like get over, become popular, and eventually take over the world. And what happens throughout the course of the comic is that some of them keep their mission. Others are like, man, this hero shit pretty nice. Like, I just like the adoration and being able to just do whatever the fuck I want. And the people fucking love us for it. Like, what if we just did that? And so there's this back and forth between like the ones who are like legitimately evil and the ones who are like villains because they were forced into a bad situation. And so Thunderbolts, if they nail it right, has a ton of potential. And even if like you know what the twist is going in, if they sell it right, there's still a lot of story that they can tell, and hopefully it's pretty good. I'm super excited to see how that turns out.
You sold me on it. I'm with it.
That's what I want to hear. Phase 6, they don't have a lot about Phase 6. Fantastic Four, that's when we finally get it. I think the first Phase 6 film is going to be Fantastic Four. Hits November 8th, 2024. And then the last two parts of Phase 6, and there's like 8 or 9 projects in the middle that they didn't talk about because, of course, you got to keep some shit secret. Presumably, the War Machine project, Armor Wars, is part of Phase 6 because it's not in Phase 5. Avengers, the Kang Dynasty, and Avengers Secret Wars. So here's my question for you, and this is going to be the final question of the night. Is this too much? And are you excited for what you've heard and what you've seen? So, Terrence, kick us off. What's up? Is it too much?
Like too much that they revealed, or too much content?
Too much content.
I kind of, I might be the wrong person to ask just because I feel like I'm at the point now where it's kind of hard to keep up with a lot of the MCU stuff, especially like the TV shows. But I know,
yes.
I know some people who they have no problem keeping up with the TV shows, so I might just be the outlier in that outlier.
Not on this. Not on this podcast.
But I'm at least the fact that they announced like what the new Avengers movies are. I think that's interesting because I know one of the big criticisms of this phase of Phase 4 is that it feels directionless, and I can see why people would think that because it's like every movie right now it seems like they're pulling different directions. I know that there was like a graphic going around that kind of explained everything. It was like, okay, you have like your supernatural Marvel, you have multiverse Marvel, you have street level Marvel, Spider-Man, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's like setting up different parts of the MCU. But I know we talked about Phase 1 earlier, and you know how Phase 1, you know, Thanos wasn't there. I'll say this with Phase 1 is that at least with Phase 1, it was building up to Avengers. Like Thanos didn't become a thing until Avengers. And let's be honest, like at that time, Avengers was a movie that we didn't think we would ever get. You know, a combination of all these superheroes coming together. It's like, that's madness. And so the fact that we actually got it was like, wow, this is mind blowing. And so you could see where Phase 1 was building up to that. With the phase that we're in right now, we're not quite sure where they're taking us, but we're kind of just along for the ride right now. And then you have some movies where it feels like, I don't know what you're trying to tell us. Like Thor Love and Thunder, I just thought was a pretty big disappointment just because, like, yeah, there's some things that are hinted at it and like toward the end of the movie. I'm not going to say it for like spoiler reasons for anyone who hasn't watched it, but it just feels like a movie that it doesn't really have anything that leads us anywhere into the MCU later. It's like, you know, with Doc Strange too, there was at least stuff that happened there. It's like, oh, okay, this is setting up for this later on. Love and Thunder, not as much. But anyway, yeah, I don't think that is too much. It's just that, I mean, Marvel is huge at this point, so, you know, either you're on board or you're not. So that's it's kind of how I see it. It's like I'm massively behind all the TV shows, but, you know, that's just me. I know some people who they still watch the TV shows every week. They've kept up with it. They still really like it. And of course, you know, anytime something is super popular, it's always going to have its haters. You know, people who just hate on something just because it's popular. So, you know, the MCU isn't immune to that. But overall, I don't think it's too much content. I think that, you know, if you're a big Marvel fan, you're going to keep up with it regardless. But I am interested to see what things are like after this phase, because this phase hasn't been as well received as the other one. So I'm interested to see what they do with phase 5 and then also phase 6. So hopefully those will be better.
So I guess for me, I do think it's too much content, but I also don't like. I think the problem is that they're still trying to tie all this shit together. As they continue to try to develop the Marvel universe, and they continue to try to like make it. Everything is part of the Marvel universe. It's not just the films. Like when I saw the TV shows, I said, okay, this is gonna be too much. This is because there's only so much time a regular adult has. Like if you're a kid, this is probably fine. Like you can watch it every week. If Marvel is like the only hobby you have, this is still probably fine. Like you could just show up and watch the shit every week, and you know if you get behind, you're not gonna get behind. That's about damn near the only thing you do. You know, you go to work, you come home, you're like, oh man, I just fuck with Marvel like real heavy, and I really don't do much else other than you might not have any other media that you care about.
Right.
Probably fine. But if you have like multiple hobbies, multiple media things that you fuck with, and, you know, if you're into video games, anime, like this podcast, you know, usually talks about, it probably is going to get overwhelming for you. Like I love superheroes. Like I've loved superheroes. Superhero comics were my first love. When I was 8 or 9 years old, when I was 5, my mom used to bring home comic books. She wouldn't let me read them because they were like, you know, all collector's issues. This is like the early 90s, the speculator boom, and you know, like everything was gonna be worth something, and so everything came in a plastic bag and shit like that. And so like, I have comics. I have like the Death of Superman somewhere in my room. Downstairs, yes, I have the original Death of Superman somewhere in my room. Downstairs, I have Batman 500. That's where John Paul Valley fights Bane. The replacement Batman fights Bane for the first time. I have that. I have all these comics, and I grew up reading them, and I grew up being like a super fan of comic books. And yet still, Marvel is too much shit. Like I like I said, I watched Falcon and Winter Soldier. I watched some of Moon Knight. I watched some of Hawkeye. Some of this, some of that. I've been on some summer shit with Marvel ever since the TV shows. Hell, I haven't even seen Eternals yet. Or Shang-Chi.
I still have not seen Eternals.
me neither,
God's
bro.
summons is nowhere in sight.
I mean, you know, X-Men is probably gonna pop up in Phase 5 or Phase 6, you would imagine. So, well, actually, it seemed like they had Phase 5 all the way planned out. So that's probably a Phase 6 thing.
I was making a joke about you said some of this and some of that. We ain't even got Scott Summers yet.
Thank you for that, Ricky. Thank
Nice.
you very much. But all jokes aside, like I mean, like I feel like the problem is that everything's so interconnected. It would be better if things were not interconnected. Like when Terrence mentioned that thing of like, okay, you have your supernatural MCU, you have your cosmic MCU, you have your street level MCU. If they weren't so connected, you could just pick the thing that you fuck with the most. So if you're like a street level fan, you watch that. You watch your Daredevil, you watch your Spider-Man, and you watch you know, Moon Knight, maybe Punisher, something like that. If you're a cosmic fan, you watch Guardians. Hopefully we get a better cosmic MCU at some point. If you like
not like Guardians.
the straight, I love Guardians the comic. The different subject. The superhero, if you fuck with like the proper superheroes like the Avengers, you know, you have that, and that's in your face. If they could separate it a bit more, it would be fine. But as long as it's as tightly knit as they're trying to make it, it's a problem, especially when, like Terrence said, you're not pushing forward towards anything. And maybe this helps. Like maybe today, the stuff that they revealed I say today. This show's gonna go up on Monday, but maybe with the stuff they revealed on during San Diego Comic Con, uh, people now will know what we're pushing towards. We're pushing towards Kang as a big villain. We're pushing towards the Beyonder and Secret Wars, and maybe that will help. Maybe knowing within 3 years you'll have seen everything you need to see, because 3 years isn't really that far off for like most shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm not. I don't think it's. I think it's too much, but it's not too much if they learn how to separate it, or if they learn how to make you feel like everything's going towards something. And as far as like the what I'm most excited for, I'm actually really excited to try out Fantastic Four, of course, and I'm really excited for of course, Black Panther, but I'm talking about really Phase 5 and 6. The two Avengers films, I'm really excited to see Avengers. Like, if Avengers stays away, like there's no other Avengers projects except maybe Young Avengers, because they've kind of set that up pretty well at this point.
Yeah.
If they keep everything off, like keep Avengers away for like that long, that's impressive. Like that's incredible, and like to like the amount of hype that will probably be behind Avengers 5 and 6. Probably through the fucking roof. Like when Kang Dynasty finally hits, if they build it right, that shit's gonna be as big as Endgame was. Hopefully, right? Uh so Will, like, do you feel like it's too much shit? And are you
Okay.
like hyped for like the last two Avengers films?
Okay, to answer that latter part of that question, I am hyped for the next couple of Avengers films. I am because I followed along with those movies quite well. Now, do I think it's too much content? When I sit back and I think about everything Marvel related that I have watched, MCU related over the years, and I think about what I watched, and then at least we've gotten to this year here, the year of our Lord 2022. I look back and I realize I'm not gonna lie to you, and I kid you not. Like we just mentioned, I hadn't seen Eternals. There's quite a couple other movies I hadn't seen. There's quite a few shows I hadn't put my hands in yet, and I'm just sitting here like, I got so much mess to sit down and watch that I'm like, where does the time go? Because all of us in here do something that takes up our time aside from sleeping, eating, shitting, and showering. So,
Not in that order.
and exactly, and
Hopefully
not in
not. Hopefully not.
and like it boggles my mind how I'm gonna try to at least remotely catch up in any way, shape, or form. So I'm just like, yeah, this is a lot of content. And when y'all were trying to talk about how things are kind of like so interwoven together, it didn't hit me until Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness came out, and my coworker had seen it, and he didn't spoil the movie for me, but he was like, if you kind of want to get a solid idea of some of this stuff, you're gonna need to at least watch these three shows and at least have the other movie in front of you before you watch this. Because if you go into this movie blind, not knowing this other stuff, you're going to get lost on what's coming up. And I'm just sitting there like, I really got to sit down here and probably watch a solid, I don't know, over the 30, 40 hours of something to
That's
watch this movie.
that's damn near homework.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. And it makes me not want to do it halfway, but I do like the stuff that I'm willing to sit down with it. At least try to take it in chunks if I can. So I do think it's a lot. And I guess I can consider myself a casual Marvel fan because I will watch the stuff as it comes out, or I will watch some things when I can. I'm not gonna be on time with everyone else who's like, let's talk about it on Twitter the minute we finish watching the episode. I'm not them people.
Not anymore.
I'll watch it. I'll watch it 3 weeks behind you if I have to.
Yeah.
And it's a lot hard. So for a casual Marvel fan, yes, this is a lot to try to keep your hands in and just be like, here, we need to watch it, we need to watch it. But if you're hardcore and you love it, you got posters of all your heroes, you even got a big laminate sticker of Captain America's head on your wall, by all means. If you can keep up with it, keep up with it. If you cannot, do not force yourself to watch this. There are other things you can do with your time. Just take what you want, watch it, and get moving. Don't stay up behind trying to watch hundreds of hours of content and then get burned out on it, because then you're gonna find yourself hating Marvel more than you like it.
That's a good point. Rakeem, do you think it's all too much, and are you excited for them last two Avengers films?
Uh, man, what's interesting about it is like, is this era too much? And I think about it now, I haven't even seen some of the movies from the previous generation before
See?
it came. Um,
It's
like I
still
remember
wild to
not
me you never saw Ragnarok.
never saw.
Oh, you haven't
Ragnarok.
seen
I never saw
Ragnarok?
Thor 2. I
Oh
haven't
wow.
seen Thor 2.
Hey, I mean, I ain't. You notice I didn't bring that up. I just said Ragnarok.
I mean that's going way too back in the backlog to worry about that.
Yeah.
Really didn't like Thor 1. But yeah, there's still some movie I haven't seen. I hadn't seen Guardians 2. I hadn't seen No Way. I didn't see Homecoming. I didn't see Homecoming. Still haven't seen it.
Damn.
So I missed out on a lot. Like during that era when I was in grad school, I missed out on a lot. So,
Okay.
because I had to. For me, I'm already behind. So as far as there being too much content, I think I was able to kind of keep up with that first. When they first had those first shows spaced out like 3 months apart each, I was easily able to watch those, and it was actually like a good feeling because it was around time the pandemic, around that time too.
Mhm.
So like I had the show spaced out, and the way they did it, that 3 month span, not only did it feel just right, I actually was looking forward to the next show. I was hungry for more content around that time.
It felt new,
Right.
But
didn't
now
it?
that it felt new, like
Yeah,
man, this is kinda
I think
cool.
that's a big thing. Like last year, it felt new, so it was really engaging to watch.
Yeah.
Whereas this year is not quite the same because we're more so used to it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think also a part of that is that not all shows are created equal.
Mhm.
And you kind of
Oh
have
yeah.
I watch one show and just really, really like it, and you watch the next one, it's like, oh, that's kind of like and it's not just Marvel doing it because I'm a Star Wars fan too, and like imagine right now being a Star Wars fan and a Marvel fan, and then watching all this content for both.
You definitely
It's
giving
very
Disney Plus your money.
Man,
Yep.
it's like too much of a good thing. And I think another part of it that I haven't talked about or we haven't talked about is that, man, when we got to those first major phases, I guess phase 1 through 3, when we from the beginning of Iron Man all the way up to Endgame, that was wrapped up so well. Mentally, I think for a lot of people, it was like, do we need more? Like that felt like we had 10 years worth of content wrapped up perfectly, memorable movies, memorable characters. I think it's fine right there. A lot of people, I was a quote I saw on Twitter, what's up, where it felt like, hey, the first phase of the MCU felt like you played a full game, got all the, did the achievements or whatever, and then like this phase feels like you're just going back to do like some extra side quests you missed. That's how it feels. And I kind of understand where they're going from, like, 'cause like you said earlier, like it felt a little directionless early on. We didn't know where we were headed to. I think once I saw Loki and I saw that where they were headed with the multiverse stuff, once they kind of got the ground rolling with the multiverse stuff, I think that was when I was kind of okay. I see where we're headed now. Like this multiverse stuff is really kicking in, as everyone can see, that is the direction we're headed to clearly because they keep talking about it and bringing it up in different movies and shows and stuff. But to answer the question clearly, I am a little bit overwhelmed. It's I can't. I'm not keeping up with the shows well. People who know me know I'm more of a sampler anyway. It's hard for me to just stay on one thing. My brain doesn't work that way. I like to go do different things. It's just my brain works. I'm sorry, but although I'm still behind, eventually I feel like I will catch up and watch some of these older shows and finish them because they're not that long. What's the one good thing about them? Not very long, so it's easy to catch up on. But Avengers I am excited for because I'm ready to see, these separate movies and shows are interesting, but what made the MCU come together in the first place was the impact of Avengers. And leading back up to the next Avengers movie, I'm ready to see if they can replicate that same level of impact. It won't be the same because nothing will ever top that first Avengers. That was an amazing moment. However, if they can like at least make a moment big enough where, okay, this definitely calls for these heroes to get together and they have to work together to solve this issue, I will be satisfied in that and seeing where this comes from. I can't say if Kang will be a great villain or not long term. The actor is good. He's worked on different projects before, and he seems like he's pretty competent. So I think he can pull off the role very well. I don't know his impact and how his impact will be, but I am interested in seeing how Avengers will turn out. I'm actually more interested in getting to the culmination right now than I am the individual parts. Because the individual parts is almost like a little fog, like getting there. Like, oh man, I kind of just want to. I kind of want to get to the meat now. Like I'm tired of like the little tidbits, the little little teasers and like the little hints of what we're getting to. I'm ready to touch it. Let's go. Let's get up in here.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel.
You ready to touch the meat, huh?
Right. Just a tip, though. Just a tip.
We should meet up.
Yo, I'm sorry, I had to say it. But yeah, like, so with the Avengers, like, as far as that goes, like, I really, because I mean, I already weighed in on this, but I do think as far as like a moment big enough to like meet up to the Avengers, like the first Avengers, seeing them together again in like a new incarnation, like you got to get as many of the old members. So like, I would probably try to get Thor back. You know, Chris Hemsworth does seem like he doesn't mind doing the role. Whether that's because he's like, okay, this is the gravy train, or whether he just enjoys the role, whatever it is, he seems eager to come back and do like as many times as they ask him. So I would get Thor for sure. I would get of course you're gonna get Sam Wilson, and he's part of the original Avengers. Well, not part of the OG Avengers, but he's part of the team. He was there for like what I think Civil War for sure, and he was part of Avengers 3 and 4. So like you could get him, Captain America. And you get all these other characters and you combine them, and you get that moment of seeing the Avengers together again. And it's not going to be the same because, you know, Cap is gone. Iron Man's gone. Scarlet Witch is, you can't fix that character and make her a hero again. Not after what she did in Multiverse of Madness. So it's over with for her. Quicksilver, he's out of there. Like so you have all these characters that fell. And I do like Black Panther, of course. Gone, like all these characters that fell in battle, and so like you have to find a way to gather who's left and face really as big a threat as Thanos was. If they know how to sell this, Kang, sure, Kang's a very good villain, one of the most iconic Avengers villains, but like Secret War should be a much bigger scale, because like and they say it. They say it in like phase 4 through 6 is called like the multiverse saga. Like the first one was about the universe. This is about the multiverse. We're on a bigger scale now. And like the scale is almost too big, and they're going to have to be careful about that. Like you don't want to, like, there is a line, I'm not going to say who said it because the person that said it fucking sucks. But one death is a tragedy. 1 million is a statistic. Not true, but kind of true. It's not true because like every death matters, but it's kind of true because like your brain can't quite comprehend the enormity of 1 million fucking deaths. And so like you have to be careful. Your brain can't quite comprehend infinite universes. Like you got to be careful. So like they have to find a way to sell it in a way that like, okay, this is a bigger deal. This is a bigger problem than Thanos ever was. And we're not as good as we were when Thanos was here. Like there isn't going to be an Iron Man. There isn't, I mean, like Iron Heart, but like she's not gonna have the experience level by the time that shit pops off. There isn't gonna be, there is no like Cap. We have a Cap that don't got no powers. He got a suit. He got a way better suit than Steve ever had, and he got to Shield, but he ain't got no powers, so he gonna have to figure that shit out. We got Thor, and you know Thor is Thor or whatever. Okay, he's more goofy than he is now.
He's a himbo.
Yeah, they turned him into a himbo or whatever. So I mean, I guess
it's a himbo.
It's the female. I mean, it's the male version of a bimbo. That's pretty much all you need to know.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, bimbo. Drop the B, replace with H. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's what that means. I had no idea. I'm getting old. I keep seeing it.
Today,
like,
Keem has learned.
Today I learned. But like, like if they can sell it, it can be a great moment and it can be a great film. So like, I agree with Keem. I mean, I'm not gonna say that I want to touch the meat, but I do think that this has like a lot of potential to be like an amazing film.
I'll pay for that. Let's meet out Saturday, everybody.
It's Moss. It's Moss.
No, it is not.
Moss.
Definitely not. Look, all right, let's go wrap it up for this week's episode.
What a way to end it.
I know, right?
What a world.
If you enjoyed this episode, I need a couple of things from you. I need you to do us a favor, and I need you to hit that subscription button on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and TikTok. Tell your friends about us. And do me a personal favor and have an excellent week. Peace.